Yeah, you can just poll the audience.
We'll figure it out. All right, Mike, we're going. Thanks for coming to the show, man.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me. I've seen some good episodes and like what you guys are doing, so just happy to be here and help bring some awareness to the Maritimes.
Oh, I appreciate that. You seem like a well-connected guy, man. Everyone that you're running into this week at the Mem Cup, Arm Dog, all the boys.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a homecoming of sorts. I played for Halifax and played for Rouen, and then my roommate in the East Coast League in Johnstown, and again in Rapid City, Dan Gender was the assistant coach for Prince Albert. So, you know, the olive branch was extended to 3 of the organizations that were here. And then, you know, obviously if Ottawa had made it out of the OHL, I played for Andre in Rouen. And obviously when he was coaching here in Halifax, we connected because I had just finished playing and was headed to prep school to start coaching. So I relied on him a lot for some guidance and things like that. So, you know, I was kind of hoping Ottawa was going to make it, but hey, the owner of Guelph's a Fairview guy, so you know, hey, good to have another Haligonian back in.
I didn't know he was a Fairview guy.
Yeah, not a lot of people do, but you know, he's pretty well connected around here.
Wow.
And yeah, it's not too often you find people that have the pockets to purchase a junior team, especially a major junior team, and be successful like they have in Guelph. I've got a couple buddies that I played against that have called Guelph home now, and it's quite an organization.
Have you ever been to Guelph?
Yeah, I've been there a few times.
What's that like as a city?
I've been there for 2 different reasons. One was obviously to see my buddies and have a good time and golf and party in the summers, and the other, I actually spent 3 months there 2 years ago after I retired. Well, you know, it's, I didn't deal with a lot of the demons that I had or the loss of identity after spending my whole life being a hockey player.
Yeah.
And, you know, all of a sudden it was like, you know, you stop playing. It's like, you know, you always talk about, oh, you can't do this forever. But when it happens.
How old were you?
Right now or when it happened?
When it happened.
When it happened, I was 31.
31, okay.
31. I just turned 31. I just finished my 9th year professionally. And my body was really starting to break down on me.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was totally upset or it was like, hey, it's time. And I said to myself, you know, kind of 30 was the cutoff date.
Yeah.
And, you know, it became just, I didn't deal with a lot of the mental health side of it and identity loss, career change, any of that stuff, right? Because a lot of people that do end up playing junior hockey or going to university, you deal with that when you're in your early 20s or as a teenager or, you know, if you're lucky enough to maybe even get, you know, a cup of tea or an invite to a professional level or something, then it's still going to be, you know, your early to mid 20s max where you're like, is this feasible to do for a living? Or am I just chasing, you know, an empty glass or something to just try to fill my days or because I don't know what I want to do? And again, your times have changed is good. And I'll never, you know, be upset about the era that I grew up in because it was amazing. But a lot of the stuff that caused a lot of my problems now was the secretism and the quiet and, oh, you're a part of something special if you're, you know, a major junior hockey player or university hockey player in the Maritimes or even a professional player, right? Like everyone sees your life as 10,000 people cheering you on or 20,000 people cheering you on. And it became too much. And then I jumped right into coaching. I didn't even take any time to, again, address some things. And I battled substance abuse issues my whole life. And heavy times and ended up developing a dependency for painkillers.
Wow.
And was on those heavies for about 10, 11 years. Wow. And then, like I said, took a job at a prep school in Sherbrooke at Bishop's College School and was a hockey director and coach for 3 years there. Was fairly successful, I would like to think, in the short time I was there. I thought I did my job well. We're a winning team. We won the national championship and beat St. Andrews and UCC and all those guys. Thank you.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it was at the time, but because of where I was at in my life, I didn't really kind of enjoy it. There was just this constant fog over my whole.
What do you mean? Just because you're not playing?
No, just because, well, I wasn't playing and I wasn't really thinking about what I wanted to do in life. It was just like, hey, this is a job. It'll fill my days. I won't have to deal with that other stuff.
Yeah.
And then eventually it just becomes too much. And After my contract was up at the school, we parted ways. I moved home and then started really addressing my mental health issues and my personal problems and trying to be happy with myself again. So sat my parents down. We started talking and checked myself into a rehab facility.
Wow. Well, what an era for this to come about, though. You know, you talk about the era where mental health wasn't a conversation and you had to hold it in. And right now it's a topic of conversation everywhere you go.
For sure.
You know, so you have to think about that from a perspective, thinking, wow, okay, it's lucky. It's 2019. It's a conversation. You're coming into it at the right time, I'd like to think.
Yeah. I mean, by no means is it ever easy to talk about. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's funny because I run into a lot of people that maybe don't know the extent of the dark places that I went to. Yeah. You know, where they just remember seeing me at a bar and having a good time and things like that. And I always had a smile on my face because I was whenever you're in a situation like that, or you're, trying to solve life's problems or look for answers in a place that's just going to cause more problems or just delay the actual reality of things, such as, drugs and alcohol and things like that. Anything that alters your mind, right? Yeah. Anything that alters your perception of reality, that gives you that false sense of security or energy or happiness or whatever it is that you're either dependent on or you're addicted to or attracted to, or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Everybody's story is different, right? And I don't want to sit here and say, oh, because I went through this, everybody's the same, because it's not. I know you've had a guest on your show prior to me, and we had met behind closed doors in a fellowship and a program. So
you guys have met in the program before? Yeah. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So I was away for 2 weeks in Toronto. Yeah. And I came back and I went to a meeting Saturday morning, and
no way.
Yeah, he was sitting in there, he's smiling, and I'm like, because I mean, when I first started going to meetings, like I didn't know a soul, and it's not,
So you sound like you had the exact same experience as him.
It's not like it's a fun thing or an enjoyable thing to have to, when you're new to the program, or you're new to recovery and all that thing. And so I walk in, I sit down, and a couple of guys that I usually see there, say hi, hug it out, see how everything's going, making sure everyone's still safe and happy, and doing the best they can, or if they need a hand. And then I look over and he's just smiling. He's like,
I know the smile too.
And he's like, man, I'm so glad to see you. And I was like, that's not really something you throw out to somebody, but I get what he's saying. It's like, oh, there's familiarity. There's somebody with, that I know who's a friend of mine or an acquaintance or buddies of a buddy, whoever, and is going through similar things.
But that is a good feeling, right? You say it's not, but like it's a great feeling to know.
You laugh,
there.
But I mean, because I mean, if I saw him the first day that I was at a meeting, I would have been in the same thing. I would have been like, oh, thank God I have somebody I know to support or go through this with. Yeah. But when you're walking in blind and you don't know anybody and you don't understand, or you're trying to learn a new way of life, it's scary as hell. Like, it is the scariest thing in the world. And then you got to try to listen to other people's stories and take, bits and pieces of what they do for their recovery and how they live their life and try to implement it into yours.
But is that a comforting feeling though? Knowing that other people are going through something similar?
Yes and no. That's what... For sure. I mean, it's comforting as somebody who struggled big time at the start. Like, I mean, you can talk to anybody that knew right away that I went. Yeah. And I just hit it. Like, I didn't even want to tell anybody that I even actually changed my life around. Yeah. I, finally gotten off, the painkillers and just made, I'm never going to really party ever again on that. And, alcohol wasn't a problem for me. Yeah. It led to other issues, or it would cause me to, I'd rather do this than go there, or I would rather lay on the couch and not have to deal with whatever instead of talking to somebody or calling somebody.
That's what you were saying.
So you just end up alienating yourself. So you have that false persona about yourself that you've created through drugs or alcohol, and then you go look in the mirror and you see that shell of what you used to be, but now you're trying to fill it with a new way of life. So again, the scary part for me was just not knowing anybody, and the embarrassment factor of not that I went, but how I got there, right? Because I had hit it for so long and lied about how happy I was and everything was great and I was still playing and, but it was just day after day. There was no means to an end. It was just like, every day was Groundhog Day for me. Right. And it's like, and then you eventually lose goal setting skills and things like that because you're not challenging your brain or you're not challenging yourself intellectually or
you're just trying to make it day by day.
Yeah, you're just trying to survive, from the time your eyes open to the time you get to go to sleep. Wow. Right. And that's if you can sleep, if you're able to shut your brain off and things like that, because again, actually, I'm not even going to go down that road. I'll just say for me in general, because for me, you're always thinking about something. A couple of really good buddies of mine were enforcers and tough guys when I played in the minors, and we used to sit and talk all the time.
What'd you talk about?
And just the constant stress on these guys' minds. Like my buddy was just like, when you go for your pregame nap, I'm like, yeah. He's like, how good? I was like, I can't wait. Like I go home, eat my meal and just shut it. If I could get to bed from 1 to 4, I would. And he's like, good for you. He's like, I sit there and lay at the ceiling fan knowing that I'm going to have to be at a heavyweight fight in 4 hours or things like that. And then you don't really realize that because it's not your soul. It wasn't my sole job. Yeah, I fought a lot and got beat up a lot, but it was always for sticking up for somebody or myself, or I crossed the line and you just answer the bell, right?
Yeah.
So, but I never thought like going in, tonight I have to do this.
Yeah.
Right. So over the years, you learn to start talking about things like your future and finances and relationships and, everything
future.
Your future and your life and what you're doing, because we're all the same, but we're all different. Right.
Elaborate on that a bit.
So we're all the same creatures because we're all, hockey players or athletes playing in the mine. We're all trying to do the same thing. Some guys are trying to support their families. Some guys are trying to get to the next level. Some guys are just doing it because they don't have anything else.
Yeah.
Right. But then that's the difference, right? Like what you're doing it for is the difference, but we're all in the same locker room, on the same planes, on the same buses, going through the same things, but the reason you're going for it is different, right? So you start to talk about those things. And again, when we were growing up, for me, it was like I didn't have cell phones till I was in pro. Really? Right? So again, you're on the bus and talking to your teammates and watching movies. You have to.
Yeah.
Right? So you learn about each other. You learn about...
I never thought of that. I never thought about that. So when I was a junior, I always had a phone.
Exactly. Right. So people, and I'm not blaming technology. I think technology it's here to stay. It's saved the world, right? Like everybody's lives are so much better for it. But you talk about guys now that go away or leave home, and it's like, oh, I'm homesick, or I'm isolated. But it's like, okay, are you actually going out every day and meeting people and talking to people and checking out the town that you're in? Or are you just getting up, going to practice, coming home, going to school, go to the gym, because this is what your schedule says. And then when you have 2 hours, it's like, oh, I'm going to FaceTime somebody back home, or I'll Skype, or I'll text, get on the group chat or whatever.
Yeah.
And you haven't left your build's basement in 8 hours, but that's your choice because of what you're doing. Right. So we didn't have that, it was, hey, let's call somebody's landline, call the billets or whoever. And, we were planning things like, okay, let's go to a movie. So you'd had to get 5 guys, load them up in a car. So
I never thought about that from that perspective of a junior hockey player being at a billet in the early 2000s. Yeah. I never thought of that.
Right. So we were always forced to go out to do things.
And to meet fans even, just because you're relevant in the city. You go out, you talk to people.
Oh, especially in Halifax, right? Like, this fan base from day one has worshipped this team. And if you are lucky enough to play here, you experience that firsthand.
Even back when you played, compared to what it is now, like it was like that. I don't remember. I was so young.
Massive, man. We were still we were selling out every night back in the early 2000s.
Wow.
Yeah. And, it was great. We had, we were doing the same things, going to schools, doing, reading to kids, going to hospital visits.
Quick question for you. Did you ever go to Rockingham Elementary?
Man, I don't know.
Oh man, okay, because I remember. Okay,
probably. Because when I was playing, there was myself, Robbie Southern, Jason King. We were the only 3 guys that lived on the Halifax side. Right.
No,
So
Jules Eddy lived over here too.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, he was. Yeah, we were only together for 1 year. But,
Don't worry. Okay.
but yeah, so Eddie. Well, actually, we'll touch on Eddie in a bit. he's got a good chunk of my life too, where he's been very instrumental and helpful. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Just from a leadership standpoint, things like that. But yeah, so when we were, he was the 1 year over here, and then he was done. And then the three of us, and then Kinger had left, and Surrey Kleisman, he was in the South End. So I was fortunate enough to have a car, and I had to pick up Kinger and
You lived over here?
I lived at home in Bedford with my parents. So
okay. Where'd you go to school while you were playing here?
CPA.
Okay.
I was, very lucky. I got drafted at home and got to stay at home.
Very lucky.
Didn't have to leave and didn't have to change high schools. Nothing really changed for me, like outside of that. It was just the hockey structure and then the demand on your time and the sacrifices you make and all that. And
yeah, but you're playing for the Mooseheads.
Absolutely well worth it. Yeah. So anybody in a heartbeat would make that trade, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're chasing something or trying to achieve a goal that, you watch on TV or you talk about, and then people start to put that little bug in your ear, and it's like, oh, this actually might be a reality, or I actually might have a chance to use the game to
take me around the world,
open doors, get an education, see travel, see the world. I mean, the game can do so much for you, and that was one of the main reasons why I got into coaching. I've been very blessed with the coaches that I've had. I mean, I played for Sean McKenzie and Cam Russell in Halifax. Chris Donnelly was on the staff as well.
Yeah.
And then when I got traded to Rouyn-Noranda, I had Andre Tourney, who's, he coached in Halifax, coached in the NHL. He's now with the Ottawa 67. So
I wanted to talk to you about that trade. How did that trade go down? Because playing at home and then you get traded
Who told you what?
I didn't hear anything. I just heard I had to ask you. Because, playing here in Halifax and then you're shipped up to northern Quebec, that's got to hurt a bit.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shock. So I think the deadline was January 10th. And we practiced at 10 o'clock that morning, and the deadline was noon. And we got to the rink, and guys were getting ready to practice, and Sean wasn't in his office. And most mornings I'd go in and just chat with him, say hi or whatever, and see what was going on or whatever. And he wasn't there, so I was like, oh, this is odd. And some of the trainers were acting a little funny, like trying to avoid me. And I was like, this is super. I was thinking, they're playing a joke, or I'm going to get like
every
a pie in the face, or, like, what did the boys do to my underwear? Like, what's going on? Is my gear messed with? Like, you're just expecting a joke of some sort, right? You're not thinking like your world's about to be turned upside down, right? Especially that close. You're 2 hours to the deadline. It's like, and we've already made a massive trade with Cape Breton to get like Stewie McRae and those guys and George Davis all here. And then it was like, I'm getting dressed and starting to walk out to practice.
You got your gear on.
Got my gear on now, walking out, and all of a sudden Donnelly and Chris McQuaid, they stop me and they're like, Coachy. And I'm like, what's up? They're like, you got to go see Marcel upstairs. Sean's up there waiting for you. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Again, not worried or anything, right? Like, I'd been here 3 years, like, oh, this is, we're making a huge run. They just made a huge trade. And I go upstairs and I'm sitting outside Marcel's office, and just like, again, like time is standing still. And I get like people in the office are all like, hi Mike, and it was good to see you and all this stuff. And then they call me into the office and he's like, yeah, we made a trade. And I was like, okay. Thinking that like I'm being told we're bringing more guys in and I got to go to the airport and pick them up or something. I don't know. Or like meet the boys.
Denial,
still like just a deer in a headlights. Just a little kid, like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. Like,
I'll pick them up.
Yeah, no, sure thing. And then they're like, yeah, and they're like, no, you've been traded. We traded you to Rouyn-Noranda. And I was like, okay. And then it was just like, then the end, like there's like that old saying, like, the lights are on but nobody's home. That was basically me. It was just like you're trying to process everything, and then it's like everything that you've done up to that point in your life is just like, that's weird. Like, what? And it's like, because this is the first time this has ever happened to me, let alone even being told like you didn't make a team or cut or, trade, any type of thing. So it's
your first taste of junior hockey.
Yeah, the business side of it. It's the first time. And again, so a local guy drafted, developed by here, and then, you're sent off. And again, I was very fortunate because I didn't have to leave home at 14 or 15, right? So I was 19, and so I didn't even get, because again, no cell phone. So I didn't even get a chance to call my mom. And my mom worked downtown Halifax, right? So it hit the radio, it had hit, the internet, all that stuff. Dial-up internet, of course. Oh, yeah. And it hit the end. I had got a hold of my dad because I had called him and I was like, hey, I got traded. My flight was at, I think, like 4:00.
That day?
Oh, yeah. And because it was like, I think Wednesday or Thursday. So they wanted me up there to play that weekend. Excuse me. So they called my dad. You got traded. Okay, what's up? And what do we got to do? And I was like, I'll be home in like an hour. And then I went right to my mom's office because she worked downtown.
Oh, you just walked to her office from the Metro Center?
Yeah, I went there. And then because Benny and all the guys, they had just getting told, so they had shut practice down. Everybody got off the ice. And
really?
We went for lunch at the Midtown, of course.
Did you drive them home after?
No, unfortunately not. My schedule was a little compressed. So we, like I said, I went down, talked to my mom real quick, told her what was up. She started crying. She, took the rest of the day off work, drove home. I went back to the rink to get my stuff. And the boys were all, like I said, they were all waiting for me outside the locker room. And we ran over to the Midtown, and Sean gave Benny the team credit card, and they picked up the tab of the lunch for the whole boys. And it was our last team meal together. And I drove home, packed up my life literally, and a couple hockey bags, and hopped on Air Canada flight from Halifax to Montreal to Val-d'Or to Rouen.
Junior hockey.
And I had a lot of time to think about what was going on.
You're like, man, I got a school project due tomorrow. I can't hand that in. How am I going to do that?
Yeah, like it was just like a whirlwind. And I was, again, phenomenal organization, great people.
To this day.
Andre, Danny DuPont, assistant coach. They came right to the airport along with Julio Scandella, who I had played with in Halifax for a couple of years, and he had been traded the summer before that up there.
Yeah.
They picked me up, drove me over to my billet family's house.
What was that experience like, meeting your billets?
It was, again, because of the type of character that I am, and it's like I don't like to feel awkward or to make other people feel awkward.
Did you feel awkward?
Not really. It was different, but it was like, okay, I'm now I had met enough billets over the years with guys and talked to them and understand that these are very special people to say, hey, I'm going to open my home up to teenage hockey players that are trying and make them feel accepted and be a part of our family. So the fact that these people were doing this for me, automatically just gives you an extra, beat a heart of your heart and thankfulness, and be like, I'm going to do everything I can to be the best version of myself and to help out, or, and to make sure that, I'm grateful and these people know it. And it's not awkward for them either, because they had never had a player. Bob Mongrain had actually lived in their they had a basement apartment, and he lived in their basement when he was the coach and GM up there.
Really?
And they were one of the rare families that were both English and French speaking.
So that's good for you. Well, they obviously
really
planned that.
Yeah, and they had planned that. So I was their first ever player. They had only ever had a coach and GM, so it was new to them as well. And I just remember walking in after that long day, and Bob and Carol Niedemann were their name, and Bob was sitting in the living room watching TV by the fire, and Carol was in the kitchen, and Carol, you could tell she was like, what, it was a little, and then the first thing out of my mouth was like, I am starved. Can I get something to eat or whatever? And she was just like, perfect. I love you. Like big, smoked meat sandwich, plate of French fries.
Quebec families love to feed. My dad's French, so every time we go up, they're always feeding us. It's great.
So it was phenomenal. And that was our first ever, experience. And Julio came with, when they drove the bill, Julio came in and chatted with them. And as soon as Julio had saw me, started eating, and Carol and Bob we were chatting away, and I just went and sat in the living room and started telling my story basically to them about it, because and how it happened, because they didn't understand what a trade was. They don't even know, they've never had a player, so we chatted, and Julio left, and I was there for a year and a half, and
man, that's a crazy story.
And I got to give Bob a quick shout out, because once Rouen won the President's Cup, they had bought a package of tickets for the Memorial Cup, and they drove down. So it's been good to have them, him and his business partner and his father-in-law here.
That's wicked.
For the whole week. So we've caught a couple games with them, and had a couple beers and some meals with them, and relived some of the glory days and some of the good times we had up there, and some of the not so good times. But that's part of growing up and being a family. So very grateful to them and the family and that organization, as well as Halifax, for everything they did in my development, and obviously the education side, and especially to my coaches and the leadership group that I was fortunate enough to be a part of and follow and learn from, and become a part of. And guys like Jules the Rock and Robbie Sutherland and Brandon Benedict were pretty instrumental in how I prepared for games and how I carried myself on the ice and the way I played. And then obviously Sean and Andre really, got the most. They squeezed every drop out of the lemon. And let's be honest, I'm not the most gifted hockey player. I don't do one thing way better than anything else. It was just, I was an offensive minded player growing up. And then when I got to junior hockey, it was like, you get that reality where it's like, okay, you're now the top kid in, your minor hockey association. Then you go to midget AAA, and it's like, now it's each of the top kids of, HRM playing against each other. And then you go from there and you go, okay, now it's the best kids out of each province in the country playing against each other. So there's always somebody better than you. There's always someone stronger than you. There's always somebody who wants it more than you, right? So that's what drives you. And as an athlete, that's what you want. You want to feel somebody breathing down your neck to push the most out of you, right? And for you to really understand and learn how to motivate and burn your own fire. Yeah. If you don't have that, then I hate to say it, you probably shouldn't be playing.
Absolutely.
Or you're swimming or bait, whatever it is, right? It doesn't matter what your sport is or what your profession. You should have that motivation to be the best you can be. If you don't, you're either at the very top of the food chain, or
you're going to get left behind.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah. Could you give me an example of, you said Mackenzie, like squeezing the last drop out of the lemon. Like, I've heard really good coaching tactics by this guy. I met him once. Could you maybe give me an example of, where he gets the best of it out of his players? Because I love, Troy Ryan was my probably favorite coach I ever had. And he was really good at getting the best out of me. He knew never to give me an inch. Even though I was playing well, he would just be like, you're playing all right. To piss me off, to make me play well. I love coaches like that. Yeah. So I was wondering if you could give me an example of maybe where a coach, even Mackenzie, that makes you a better player.
Yeah. So Sean, like I said, Sean's always been a big part of my life. He's a Bedford guy. I'm a Bedford kid. So he always made sure that we were, I was given every opportunity. And, I had to make sure that I took advantage of those opportunities, but, he didn't want to see any of us left behind, right? Because,
what do you mean by that?
Because we weren't, 100-point guys coming out of this, or, we were, if you look at our roster back in 2001, the year after the Memorial Cup, we ended up winning the division, and we had like 14 rookies on our team.
I didn't know that.
And it was all, and we were, majority Atlantic Canadian kids, guys like AJ McLean, Derek Kent, Randy Upshaw, Bobby Clark, myself, Benedict. So it was a really close knit team, and that year our motto was family and play for the guy beside you, and that's where you really started. I was 17 years old, and it's like I'm being taught that these 20 guys in the locker room are my brothers, my family, everything, and you live and die with those guys. Like, if you're going to battle, you want certain guys with you. And we'll go to 2002, that massive brawl we had with Baie-Comeau.
I remember seeing that's on YouTube, isn't it?
Yeah. And or you can go even the year before, the brawl in warm up with Cape Breton.
Oh, after warm, Jules was showing me that.
Yeah. So there was instances where they would just, you come in and they teach you, and the care factor and the team building that we did right off the get-go from, again, with the no cell phone thing. So it was like mandatory team dinners, mandatory movie night, things like that. Like we used to go to the theater all the time.
Up in Bears Lake
Up
here?
in Bears Lake. And, and if any of the rookies were with us, or if I was with a rookie that was there or whatever, we'd stand up during the previews or before the previews start, do a little karaoke or sing along for the people that were in there. And I mean, it was all in good fun.
Yeah.
Right. It was part of it. It was welcome to the, you got to pay your dues and all that stuff. And Sean always encouraged that. It was always, here's some extra money out of his own pocket to be like, here, go take the boys to a movie, take the boys to dinner, team party, like I'll pick up all the taxi receipts. Like he just did so much to care for us that made us care for each other and then him. And it's that old saying, like people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
Right. Or touch the hand before you touch the heart before you touch the hand.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want people to follow you and buy into what you're selling, or to pull on the rope in the same, whatever the analogy is you want to use to reach your goal, you can't do it alone.
It's almost a good business model.
It is. And it's the same model that I've used in recovery. And, I took all those tactics and all that mentality to prep school when I was coaching there. And I took all that stuff to Rouen when I got traded up there. And I took all that stuff to university when I went there and to pro. And you just keep adding to it. Right. And Sean was one of the reasons that I discovered I had leadership qualities. Right? Because he treated me like a professional, treated me like an adult, and said, if you want it, it's yours for the taking, but you've got to earn it and work for it and continue to do it. So we were never held back. We were encouraged to do more, and we were encouraged to do it. And he always had our back. So, and it was just, and I just felt like I had, it was kind of like when you leave the house when you're a kid and, you go play baseball or hockey and, you don't want to disappoint your dad or your parents, and they're like, we don't care what the score is, win or lose, as long as you try your best.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that was like, I felt the same responsibility to Sean, my teammates, the Mooseheads, Andre, my teammates, the Huskies, whoever I played for, whoever I was asking to stand beside me or follow me into, playoffs or whatever the battle was, or, the night after rookie party when we all know we're going to just get like it's going to be a terrible practice, but we're all in it together, or just things like that. It's like, you need to be able to motivate yourself to motivate others. And if you can't,
I believe that.
And if you can't be your best or put your best foot forward, you can't expect anybody else to, right? You can't, and again, this is just my opinion, but I don't think that people who are successful in life have sat back and waited for somebody else to do it for them, and again, I'm not, just based on some of the hockey that we watched this week, I don't think there was teams in this tournament that took advantage and coached to win, right? I think the teams that are in the final did.
Yeah.
Right. You take a look at Dobson, right? They're tracking his ice time, but his coach, they're taking advantage of TV timeouts. They're taking advantage of, icing stoppage of play. So he's getting to double and triple shift this guy, and you look at some of these other teams that have these star guys and it's like, you don't even see them.
Suzuki, perfect example.
Exactly,
last night. Where
right?
was he last night?
That whole power play, the whole line, those, it was like, these guys aren't even on the ice enough to make an impact.
Yeah.
I get it. It's the end of the year. You're tired, but
come on.
What are you saving it for?
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
They're home now.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, if you're a coach, to me, it would be like, you're got a coach to win. It doesn't matter. You can't worry about injuries, feelings, energy for Sunday, whatever. You got to get there first.
Yeah.
Right. And it was just because, again, you start walking around the rink and you hear people, giving their opinion, things like that. But I 100% agree with what people were saying about that. It's like, you don't see the other star players from the other teams, like, you have seen from Halifax and Rouen, because they've studied and they're saying, okay, we can take advantage of this and get this guy extra minutes or extra involved, which makes our team that much better.
I love the psychology of coaching. Ever since I've stopped playing, I love watching games and seeing lines going out. Perfect example, Heinem last night from Rouen. He was playing well, but I saw he went off and the coach was giving it to him a little bit. He sat for, I think, 3 shifts, pissed him off, came out, he scored. I love watching that. I think that's a perfect example of just knowing your players. So that's why I asked the question about Mackenzie, about how he gets his players to work for him. Oh, yeah. I just love that stuff. It gets me going.
And he's to this day, he is somebody who cares more than anything. He's, the technical director in Bedford for Bedford Minor Hockey.
Oh, is he?
And I do a lot of stuff. He's taken care of me for forever. And when I got out of treatment and was trying to, fill my shell of a body with a soul and a purpose again and all that stuff. And he's
still coaching you.
Yeah, he's still coaching
That's
me.
Awesome.
I got out of treatment just before Christmas in 2017, and middle of January, I was just walking by the rink, and Sean was like, "Coachy," and I was like, "All right, that's the guy I was looking for." And we went for coffee, and I told him the whole story. I broke down. We were down at Bedford Place Mall, and I was crying, and because he was such a big part of my life and still is, I felt like I had almost let him down as well. Same as when I feel like I told my story to my parents, like, yes, I made choices 100%, right? Like, and I got to live with that. I was led to some of my choices, with injuries and surgeries and things like that. It was like, let me know when you're out type thing. I was trusted with it. So yes, it got out of hand, but my parents felt like they had let me down, because they were like, we weren't there when your life spiraled out of control. And I was like, but that's not your responsibility. Yeah. Right. But as somebody who's in recovery and doing therapy, you take on other people's problems, or you take on the pain that you caused your family or the people that cared about you or loved you while you were under the influence, or not your true soul, right? Or your true person. So it was like, when I was telling the story to him, like, I felt like I was letting him down too, which was the furthest thing from the truth. And he would be the first one to smack me up and be like, smarten up. Yeah. Like, you didn't do anything to me. You didn't let me down. You didn't know. So then he was like, well, let's get you back involved in the game of hockey. So I started doing core skills in Bedford Minor Hockey. So I'd be on the ice running a station, whether it be shooting or passing, skating, whatever. And we'd see every kid or in every team that goes through Bedford Minor Hockey once a week. And then, so that was a good introduction back into it. And now, we're doing a lot of good stuff. And he knows every kid and every parent's names that is registered in Bedford Minor Hockey and what they do. He puts more time in than anybody I've ever met.
He knows every kid's name, every parent's,
and what team they played for.
He must take a lot of fish oil or something.
I don't know, like,
that's crazy.
He's a science experiment for sure. I mean, there's times, there was a couple years, like 2 years ago, we were pulling some really long hours, and and I mean, I drink a lot of coffee, and I love coffee.
Coffee's a great thing.
Yeah, phenomenal.
Love it.
So he was just like, it got to a point where he's like, I can't drink any more coffee, and he would just go on the ice and like chew the coffee beans. And we're like, we're running a practice for like, Adam kids or whatever. And he's chewing on beans all wired up. And it's like, oh boy, this is going to be a good hour.
That's hilarious.
Oh yeah. But he's in the rink more than anything, more than anybody. He knows everybody. And he's been really instrumental in bringing in former players and guys back into Bedford that are, that have gone away to play junior university. And now they're back and starting to, build their life and get married or have kids and things like that. So he's trying to get them back involved, and it's really good, because I mean, he's Alex Hazelhurst from Bedford, Phil Carpentier, Tyler Lytle, Jeff Lytle, Pete McIsaac, Greg McDonald. He had Patty Sampson a few years ago before Patty got married and had a kid. Donald McLean's back doing a lot of stuff with Bedford Minor Hockey. So he's done and again, he doesn't want to go on the ice anymore. The guy goes, I mean, he's been on the ice his entire life, right?
Yeah.
So by bringing us in, he doesn't have to worry about
someone messing up. He knows
or
that,
he knows that the kids or the practice is in good hands because we're capable of teaching and working with kids and developing them the way he wants it because he developed us.
I'd love to get him on the podcast and pick his brain. Sounds like a great guy.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right. And he was the, and then after, we still talk, we go for coffee, even though it's not, he's gonna go to the finals tomorrow or whatever. Yeah, he ended up getting to go. I think Tangay got him tickets there.
Okay.
For Wednesday's game.
Is Tangay still in town?
I have no idea, to be honest.
I thought you knew everything. Everybody's in town.
I put that false sense of security out there for people. I know I talk like I know more than I do, probably, but no, he's. I'll mention it to him when I see him today. That you're looking to get a good coach's brain on here, and he was one that really stress like the mental side of things and read books and figure out, we did a lot of work with your mind's eye. And when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, you're like, mind's eye, what the hell is that?
I'm still asking, what is that?
And
what does that mean?
He was the first one to talk about visualizing, before the game when you're taping your sticks, like you would see majority of our team from, 2000 to 2003, all guys spread out in the lower bowl of the Metro Center taping their sticks. Upshaw and I sat together and everybody was just like, and we would go through face-off play. If we win, that way when you get out on the ice, you don't have to think about it. You've already kind of seen the play develop, so you just react and your instincts take over, right? So if you're shorthanded and you're lined up for a face-off, our centerman wins it back. What's my job? Am I the guy tying up or am I the guy that's got to get it 200 feet?
Yeah.
Right. So and then it's like, okay, if it's one to the other corner and I can't get there on my forehand, am I going up the wall or am I going back to my partner? Am I looking up the middle?
So he's telling you to visualize. So
you're visualizing
back in 2000, 2001, back then.
Yeah, way back in the day. Yeah.
Wow.
So again, and he was always reading books, and I was laughing at the guy like, why are we reading? I want to watch movies, right? Like we're busing to Bay Camo or something. It's like, let's get the movies going here, or whatever. And he's like, we got to read and encouraged us to to break the mental sweat and to visualize things before. So and that's one thing that I carried out to the rest of my life. I still do it to this day. I mean, there's nights where I struggle with things or I don't sleep or my brain's working overtime and it's like, what do I have to do tomorrow? Or
you visualize it like the night before.
So it started like, okay, I plan my day, it's there. Then when I wake up, I don't have that like anxiety or panic of, oh man, am I late? What do I got to do?
Do you have a calendar by any chance? Do you have like
Yeah, I got a calendar on my phone. And
I got a written one, like a whiteboard in my room. I found on my phone it's a little too tough, but I got the calendar.
I don't know how you see anything with that screen.
Oh, it's messed up. I know I run a media company off that. You're not supposed to tell anyone that. Jesus Christ. So I'll edit it out.
I think I can find you. I'll put a call. Actually, who's ever listened to this that owns a cell phone repair shop.
Yeah, let me know.
Somebody send Justin Melanger and or the High Button a private message with your number. And
I need a new suit too, actually.
A new suit?
I need a new suit and we're good to go.
Anybody at Moore's out there? No, we'll just start getting ads going here.
But I know what you mean about the visualization thing. I need to see things in order to stay calm, because if I know I have 3 podcasts scheduled and I just forget what time, even though I know they're 3 in a row and I don't know what day or what time, I'll panic. I'll get gut feeling. It's like, fuck, what do I do here? Yeah. But I know what you mean about the whole visualization thing. It's a nice thing knowing what to do.
And it's, again, in today's world, it's second nature to people. Everybody who's ever an Olympic athlete, you're a swimmer, a biker, shot put or anything, you're visualizing setting world records every day you get out of bed, especially diving. I watch a lot of documentaries.
Like pool diving?
Yeah. So I watched that special on Greg Louganis, the American diver.
No.
He was diagnosed HIV positive. He came out and he was basically blackballed from the USA Diving. Anyway, HBO did a big special on him, and they talk about it, because the stuff that those guys do, or those athletes, male, female, doesn't matter. You're talking 3-meter springboard or the tower, and they're pulling off like 4 backflips and tuck and roll, like all this other stuff, and not land on your face. You know what I mean?
never thought
or
of that.
belly flop or on your back or like, and if you're diving at whatever the tower is, like that's like hitting concrete.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, the visualization of making sure you do all those in gymnasts. And I played with a guy whose brother's in Cirque du Soleil. And he said the amount of preparation and stuff before the show that goes in, or when they're training in the practice, it's like, you know, they have pictures and they sit there and they look at the picture of them doing the performance or the practice. And then it's like, and then they take it away, then they visualize doing it, or then they'll go into the gym with the ropes and the trampolines and do their routine. And then they'll get rid of the ropes and just do it on the trampoline. Right. So it's like a progression thing.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then that's how I actually learned that I was a very visual learner, like in school and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I loved being in the classroom.
Really?
Because I could see what the teacher was doing. I could hear what other people had problems with, right? And that helped me solve my problem. Or if maybe my problem was the same as your problem, but if you ask the question, I have the answer. I don't have to raise my hand or whatever, right? So you learn from other people. Right now, you know, and right now I'm actually studying for my LLQP for the financial services, my insurance exams.
Okay.
So that right there, that's online at your own pace. And
a lot of coffee.
Let's be honest, at this point in my life, like, I mean, I haven't been to school since 2003.
Wow.
No, maybe I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's been a long time since I've physically had to study, write exams, like break my day down again, schedule my day with learning. Yeah. And it was the hardest thing to readjust to. I was just like, I would sit there and be like, my brain would go anywhere but where like I needed to be. Like, and I was okay with that. I was like, all right, brain, fuck, let's like fly away here. Like, I don't want to look at this stuff. Right. But then that's it. And it's like, how do I now figure out or translate my visual learning skills or how I learn into this, or vice versa, right? Yeah. If you're a learn at your own pace or an e-learner person, and there are a lot of people that are like that,
tons,
right? And there's, you know, and I've talked to people and they're like, oh, it was so much easier for me because I had my wife and kids, and, you know, I only had 2 hours in the morning to study, so that was that. So I mean, their day was a little bit more structured, but whereas, you know, I'm still relatively new to recovery and trying to piece my life together as to where I want it and where I want hockey to fit in. And, you know, if I want to get married and have kids and all that stuff and really start, you know, and that was the big reason to get clean and to get my life back in order. Right. It was just, you know, your previous guest talked about being present and all that. And that was the biggest thing. Like if I can sit here and actually be here and talk to you and think about answers and actually give you like an articulated answer that's been thought about, instead of just this blank stare and a shit-eating grin on my face, giggling about, you know, all the parties I've been to or all the guys that I've hung out with, or, you know, all the girls I've met and all the free stuff I've gotten, or, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, nobody wants to hear about that garbage. I don't even want to talk about it, because guess what? I'm not anybody important. I'm not somebody famous, right? It's, you know,
it's life. We're all equals.
Life. We're all equals, right? Everybody does it. It's just on what scale? Are you a boisterous, bold, outgoing, charismatic, loud person, which I was back in the day, especially when we were drinking and going out, sitting on a patio and things like that? Because again, that was my way of kind of acting out and getting the demons and that shit I didn't want to deal with, just getting it out, right? So, you know, you still gotta process things and recalculate and I always have to check in with myself. Right? Like, this week has been great. I've seen a lot of people.
Does that bring up a lot of old memories?
A lot of old memories, but good memories, and smiling and laughing. And we were talking actually, when I called the owners from Rouen, they were down, and I've run into them a bunch.
Still the same owners from one,
Yeah, a couple new ones, but Jacques Blais and Randy Charchuk and then Andre bought in and things like that. So there's a couple of different faces, but and I know Marc-Andre Bergeron, assistant coach, used to play for Flyers. He bought in as well. So like I said, there's a couple of new guys, but the main guys are still there. And you know, they're like, Mike, you haven't been back since you played. And I was like, you know, and I felt bad, but let's be honest, if I live in Halifax and I'm, you know, my first year pro was in Italy and then the next 8 years was in the US, that's not, Rouyn-Noranda is not really on any road. Much. You know what I mean? It's not like, hey, I'm heading to Houston or Arizona.
I'll make a stop in Rouyn.
Detour up into the Arctic for a second here before I go to the south. You know, like it's just so. I mean, I feel bad, but and they're like, anytime you want to come, you are more than welcome. We'll take care of you. We'll, you know,
drop the puck at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, maybe who knows? But so like, and it's just that warmth and that welcome that reminded me of how good things used to be, and there are phenomenal people in this game, and not everybody's out for themselves or to screw people or whatever. Like, people genuinely care still, and it restores your faith in humanity, because again, you turn on the news, you look at your phone, you look at whatever, and it's like, oh my sweet Jesus, what is wrong with people? Or and it sounds so unfair, because again, I am not perfect and I have my own personal battles, but it's like, you know, if I'm sitting there shaking my head going, what the, you know, it's like, come on.
You got to look at the big picture.
Yeah. Like this thing is like, this thing's going to explode one of these days. Right. Like, so it's scary, but at the same time, that's the world we live in. And as much as acceptance and difference and equality and everything that we're sharing now, and everybody has a more open mind to, it's opening up people to be vulnerable and to get hurt twice as bad, or for them to be taken advantage of. You know, I mean, I don't even know if this is a good topic to get into, but
bring it up.
I mean, you know, people that struggle or are lost, right? Or they don't have any direction, or they don't know who they are or what they want to do, and they get, you know, tied into some of these extremist groups or things like that, right? Like, hey, this person is opening up and saying, hey, I don't know who I am, or I struggle. And then there are groups, or there are certain individuals that just feast on that and be like, let's take advantage of this, brainwash them, or bring them in and corrupt them even more, right? Yeah. And then that adds to other problems in the world that are probably more monumental or insurmountable versus my personal recovery, or, you know, somebody dealing with a death in the family, or things like that. And I'm not downplaying any tragedy or any type of trauma in anyone's life, but if World War III breaks out, I'm more concerned about that than I am about myself staying clean and sober, right? It'd be like more about living and surviving, or do I have to go to war? Is there going to be a nuke dropped, and where am I going to be safe? Right? It's like, you put things in perspective is basically what I'm trying to say by not...
Whenever you are feeling like, I agree. When you put things into perspective, if you're having a bad day and you look at someone, even someone that just has a disability, you're just like, okay, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I'm here, I'm healthy, I can see, I'm breathing, you're above ground. That's one of the things that helps me. And not that I had a drug or alcohol problem or anything, but just like in business and life, it's just perspective.
Sure. And it's the best way to look at things, I feel now.
Absolutely.
Especially... like I joke about it now, especially with like some of my real close buddies, you know, like post-therapy Mike. Like, that's who I am now, right? Because everyone, like, even, you know, you run into people that you don't see for a while. And it's just like, you know, even my parents, who I see every single day. And it's just like, and, you know, you see that smile in your mom's face, or that, you know, the look that your dad gives you when he's actually proud of you, but doesn't say it, or, you know, he knows he loves you, but he won't say it, or vice versa, right? You just you just know. And it's like, you can just see the joy that I'm coming back. Right. Or like that blank stare and that constant groggy, my body hates me, I'm sore, I hate myself, excuse after excuse, you know, instead of asking for help, or, you know, going in a different direction. It was like, I'll just wait for the pills to kick in, and then I'll get up and do my day, or tackle whatever it is I got to do. Right. So, but now so when I see people and we talk and we laugh, and that was one of the main reasons why, you know, when we chatted there at the game, I was like, it's time. Like, this is the time now. Like, people have now seen me. I'm back here full time. This is going to be home. I'm going to live here. And it's my life, right? I've accepted it. And my story I need to share it, because for the last year and a half, it's been, you know, I pick and choose who I tell, because it is my story. But that gets to be a fucking headache trying to figure, did I tell this person? Does this person know? Do I lie to this person?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm not lying about anything anymore. I've accepted, I've done the work. I'm going to have to continue to do work every single day, because by no means is my body back to normal, and I'm still going to have a couple more surgeries. So,
yeah.
But at least now I'm aware of it. We can work with doctors, we can work with surgeons and everybody, my parents and my pharmacists and all that stuff. And we're all on the same page, so that with the help of the doctors and the medications done properly, I don't have to worry.
Yeah.
Right. Because again, whereas my addiction was dependency led.
What does that mean again? Dependency led?
Basically, my body had become dependent on the pills versus trying to look for the answers of life in the bottom of the bottle, or I'm trying to cover up, previous trauma or something like that, where, or, abuse or something like that, where I didn't have that in my childhood. So that wasn't the root cause of my addiction, right? It was, shattered left leg, 7 surgeries on my wrist, 2 surgeries on my neck, broken orbital bone 4 times. I broken my nose, broken jaw, broken, let's see, we'll go through the list.
Holy smokes.
Broken sternoclavicle joint, so my sternum and collarbone where it joins, that joint, I've had surgery on that. Left knee surgery, got no ligaments or tendons in my left knee. I had 6 surgeries on the wrist, as you can see.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Ligament and tendon surgery on the wrist before that. I still got a couple pins and screws in my wrist. I still got 3 plates and 14 screws holding my leg and ankle together, right? So, I'm not done by any means. It's my body, right? Like my surgeon here in Halifax, he's been unreal. He knows about my past, and he works with my family doctor. Again, he knows, he was brought in, so they work together, and only one doctor, prescribes me my medication for the stuff that I have to take for nerve damage and, an antidepressant and things like that, right? To just be able to live normally. So with all their help and things like that, it's going to be easy. And, they're going to do a wrist replacement, right? Like, welcome to, 2019. Now,
never knew that was a thing.
Yeah. Neither did I until about 6 months ago. And he's like, yeah, you'll be the first guy in Atlantic Canada to get it once we get the approval and stuff. I guess they just started in the US and in Ontario and things like that. So he's like, once they get it here, I'll be the first one. So again, I have to accept that there will be times in my life where my recovery will be at a standstill, I guess. Yeah. But it's for a medical reason. I mean, even when I was in rehab, I got pulled out of rehab 6 weeks in to have a surgery. Oh. So that was a bit of a frustrating moment, because I had, I'd done the detox and withdrawal. I'd done all that. I was in therapy and I was doing everything. And I was like 6 weeks. It was like, most people are going home. Right. Yeah. And I'm like, I gotta go to my doctor's calling my surgeon to go, okay, we're going to give him a 4-day pass. He flies home. Parent stays at his parents, whatever, Monday night. Tuesday checks into the hospital. Wednesday surgery. Thursday recovery. Friday he's back on a flight here. Like, they had it down to a science. They had car service,
because they're afraid you might relapse or something,
or just not come back. Because I was there under my own accord, right? Like, I chose to go. I wanted to go. I wasn't forced. I wasn't forced by a court or legal issues to say, hey, if you don't do this, you're going to the clink, or into the ground, whatever, right? Like, so it was like they couldn't force me to stay. If I wanted to leave, I could. You
could.
Right? So they had the car services set up, pick me up from the door, drive me right to the airport. There was a guy there to carry my bags, boom, get me through the security. Like, it was very professional and very well done. Yeah. I mean, we paid through, for the services, obviously. And I went 100% private because, again, I didn't want anybody to know. And again, just the stigma and the embarrassment, all that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, so we did all that and had the surgery and
Jesus
had to do the detox, and like, cause I got shot right back up, right? Like, again, you're removing plates and screws from bone. It's gonna hurt, right? Like, they tried everything. They tried doing epidural in my neck, and so I woke up from surgery and the thing had leaked. It came out of my neck, so basically I couldn't feel like my legs, my other arm, my chest. But what could I feel? the one thing that they didn't want me to feel. So I could only feel my right arm because it had fallen out of my neck, and then all the whatever it is
because that's all attached up here, right?
Then it just was like, so it just started leaking everywhere, and my whole body went numb except for my arms. So like, of course they got, they were like, we don't want you to suffer. So, you got to, do this and do that, and you get back on the stuff. And, it was, my dad was there in the hospital with me to make sure I just didn't sit there and push the button all day long. Right. And I was at a point then where it was like, I was scared to death to take medication. I was scared to death to do anything because I didn't want to die.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, I just woke up from surgery, and it's like, I would rather not be given anything and be in agonizing pain than
you could take
a chance and die or not, so, this is supposed to be a fun, happy podcast chat, and we're going into dark life.
I got to pee
issues.
really quick.
Of course you do. It's that coffee.
It's that I know it is. All right, I'm back. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And then obviously, the anonymous part is huge in recovery and in treatment and all that stuff too, and maybe in a private facility, right? Like, it was movie producers, actors,
really?
politics.
Where was the
I went to I was in Guelph.
Okay.
So it was called The Residence, which is like a private division of Homewood. And Ronnie Ellis, the Hockey Hall of Famer, like he was there.
He was there?
Not with me, but he went to Homewood for alcoholism, and he goes back once a year. He donates money, he speaks, and he's very vocal about how Homewood saved his life. And Homewood, they have offices all across the country. Like, there's an office in Dartmouth here, but the Homewood Health Center itself is one of the best, like, mental health and addiction services that this country has to offer. And but they have a private section which is called The Residence. And it's basically, they have their own, like, we have separate rules and all this thing, and it was pretty, like, when I was in there, I had a 24-hour nursing team. I had a private chef, private trainer, all these things.
No way. You can work out while you're in there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been, exercise is a huge part of breaking through and mental health, physical health, all that stuff, right? Because it gets those endorphins going. Basically, you're substituting, right? Like, if you were, for me, it was, pain medication. So that pain medication was triggering the brain, right? So now I go to the gym to get that same release. I've got to exert myself to push my body and get sweating. And
do you do yoga? Sorry. No. All right, that's fine. I got to
it was part of our summer training. I won't mention any names for this one, but I absolutely hated it. Like, it was driven down our throats.
That's a question I want to ask you. What was it like to train with JP and Marchand, all those boys?
Yeah, so we had an absolute blast, right? I mean, we had such a good group. Even though there's a bit of an age gap there between me and some of those younger guys. Yeah. But I mean, so like we were always together, that group, right?
It looks like a great group to train with in the summer. I love JP as a trainer too. He switches it up.
Yeah, he's awesome. And it's just, and he knows my body just as well as I do, right? He's the only other guy that would know, next to my surgeon and doctor, like, because for me now, like, when I stopped playing, I stopped everything. I stopped exercising. I stopped caring about diet. I was like, I'm done. I was like, perfect. Yeah. I hit the finish line, put the hands in the air. I was like, I made it. Bring on McDonald's at least once a week. Like, I want pizza. Like, I'm never eating pasta again. Like, it was just like hallelujah, like the switch went off and it was like, I am shutting it down, right? No more 7 a.m. workouts, no more hungover bag skates, no more, flights on no sleep, no nothing, right? It's just like, so I was like, oh, great, vacation. Yeah. And then slowly it's not good, right? Especially when you're somebody who your whole life has been physical activity and exertion, and it's like, oh, you're mad? Go launch yourself into another human being and it's okay. Yeah. Oh, you don't like what he did? Go drop your gloves and punch him in the face and release all your energy and anger on him. Yeah,
you can't do that at a 9-to-5 job.
You could. Yeah. You'd be calling me to bail you out just like some of the guys did in junior. We can touch on that if you want.
Go for it.
Without names, of course. But no, it was, I mean, it's just, it was tough, right? You stop, and then it's like, you don't get that release. You don't get those endorphins, and all of a sudden then it's like, you're not happy. You start to go into a depressed state, and it's like, you start looking in and I'm extremely vain. I'll be the first one to admit it. Like, I work out now. I just started again, like probably 6-8 months ago.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm in there knocking out squats and doing sprints on the friggin' treadmill and biking for an hour and like, grunting and hang cleans and press, like deadlifts? You think I'm in? No. Beach body all the way, and I'm not even close to being there, but it's like,
you feel better mentally,
way better. And it's like, I'm going to the gym, right? And again, it goes back to like the wording part. And I read a book where it's like, you say today, it's like, oh, I have to do this. No, I get to do this. I want to do this, right? So change your mentality out of that it's forced on you. And of course, things that, training and working out, like, nobody really likes to do that stuff. You accept it, and it's part of your job or part of your profession or part of, your structure as an athlete, or as you're setting your goals. Oh, I need to add this to, or to get an edge, I've got to, see a psychologist or add a nutritionist or whatever. Every athlete's looking for an edge, every businessman, whoever, it doesn't matter. You're looking for things to add to make you different and better than the next guy. So you get more business, or you make the team, whatever. Right. So they, you just the wording piece and visualization and things like that, it brings everything back full circle. Yeah. And even though those are things that I'm like, oh, I hate doing this, I need those things in my life. And working out this way is a lot better and different than training, right? Because if I do push it too much, guess what? I go backwards by about 2 weeks physically and mentally. I go backwards, I don't even know how many months, right? Because now I've crossed the line from having fun and working out for my health and my own, well-being, to I'm training as a hockey player, as an athlete. Now my body hurts. Well, what's up? You start like, well, it hurts. What can I take? Well, your brain automatically wants to take
the drugs,
narcotic pain medication. Yeah. Well, can't do that. So what's next, right? So, you get into the cannabis thing, right? I have a prescription for CBD oil, and it has changed my life around, right? Like,
great.
People say, oh, it's, there's all that stigma again about marijuana. Like, I'll be the first one to admit, like, I don't smoke weed, right? Like, I think maybe 5 times in my life I've smoked weed, but like, you put it in a gummy or the oil.
The oil in the tea is what I like.
Like, absolutely. Like, it just, anxiety, everything just goes away. My pain, it's great, right? Yeah. And there's not that psychoactive effect, right? So it's just like,
that's what I hate about the weed, is the psychoactive. It messes with my mind
and things like that. Yeah. So,
I just think like I become like lazy, and then I become paranoid that I'm not being productive. That's my paranoia with it. But with the CBD, like you said, there's no
psychoactive you can do. It's just, it's great. Yeah. And, I'm very grateful now that it's legalized in our country. And now, players unions and other sports that are looking at it as means of treatment and alternatives to, prescriptions and alcohol and all that stuff. Because again, you go around a room, I guarantee you that probably 75% of those guys can't sleep at night, can't turn their brain off. Wow. Right? Especially when you're in a sport where it's so physically demanding on your body, where an afternoon nap becomes a staple in your life, right? So you're shutting it down for 2-3 hours in the afternoon. Go exert yourself. Do you think you're really going to fall asleep at 10, 11 o'clock at night?
No.
100% not,
right? The adrenaline's still going.
Adrenaline's still going. So what do? Well, you can medicate yourself, or you can... do what? Yeah. Like, have play video game, you start drinking. Next thing you know, it's like, well, you're at that point. Do we go out or do we go to bed? Yeah. No one's being like, hey, let's go to bed when we're 22, like, especially
these days, the girls are hitting your phone up too. You're like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So it's like everything's pulling you everywhere. So, the self-discipline piece. So, again, as much as I talk about recovery and things like that, everyone is different. And, as long as it's within my doctor's rules and nothing is abused, then I'm living a clean life, even though I do, I have to take medication, non-narcotic medication. So, And, you know, like I said, this past week, I mean, you know, I was never one for really casual beers either. If we were drinking, it was for a purpose. It was, we were going out, or
You're not having one or two, you're having 12.
It's, we're flooring it, and we're getting after it, and we're, you know, it's Tuesday night, but people are going to think it's New Year's, and, you know, that's just the way it was, right? Like, we go as hard as we possibly can, because you only get one day off a month or whatever, right? And then when you get to be pro and you get to make your own choices, and the coach doesn't care. He's like, as long as you do your job, what's he going to do? He can't give you a curfew. They can't, you know what I mean?
You're
like,
you're
a grown man. They're paying you for a service. You're providing that service. Yeah. As long as you do it, what you do outside the rink, right?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. So they're not going to question what you're doing or be like, come on, guys, like, you know, unless it gets out of hand and then, you know, legal stuff gets involved. But, you know, it's just, it was just the way of the world. Right.
Yeah.
But now that everybody's into, you know, accepting things and talking about it, it's a, like I said, it's a good thing, and it's also a bad thing. No, just kidding. It's always a good thing. Always positive.
I got to ask you, different way, different route, making the cut.
Yeah.
You were on that show.
I was.
Talk about that experience.
I've been on a couple of TV shows, actually. I made a quick appearance on Hockey Wives a couple years ago. My buddy Patrick O'Sullivan, when he wrote his book there, Breaking Away, the story about you know his relationship with his father and how corrupt and dangerous it was, and his upbringing and the abuse and things like that. So his book launch was October in Toronto a couple years ago. And I was working at the private school, and we just happened to have their school ed was on break. So at private schools, if you're a coach or an administrator, you have the same life as a teacher. Yeah. So you get the summers off, March break, Christmas, all that stuff, right? So anytime the school shut down, if we weren't playing or recruiting, I was vacation mode. So I flew up to Toronto for the weekend, and
that's where they film it, up there?
No, this is Sully's book launch.
Oh, book launch, sorry.
Yeah, and he had played, you know, in LA with Dustin Brown and Jason LaBarbera, sorry, and their wives came to Toronto for his book launch. So of course they were on Hockey Wives, and cameras are following us around the Blue Jays game, the playoff game there, and Joey Bats with the bat flip, right? And
you were at that game?
Oh yeah. So and they're all, and the cameras are following the girls around, and you just hear all the guys screaming like, "We love you," right? And they're just, everybody's interested in the girls. They don't care. Of course. They don't care that like Sully's there or Carcelo's, like, you know, a bunch of NHL guys are there or whatever, right? So they're just like fixated on the cameras and the girls. So the night of the book launch, Jeff Merrick was doing the Q&A, and we were there having some beers, and me and Sully are sitting at the table, and all of a sudden they stroll in. And the night that Hockey Wives was aired, my phone and everybody's blown. They're like, you're not even married. Like, you don't even play in like, how are you on this show? And it was like, oh man,
that's amazing.
Yeah. So people and of course, like once it's on TV or it's there forever. Like, that's even this podcast, right? Like, once it's out there, it's out forever, right? Like, and people are like, oh, you can delete it or whatever. No, you can't.
We had Prust on here. He's on that show.
Oh yeah.
He's saying he's loving it. He's like, like I walk on the streets and girls come up to me and they say they love my wife. It's great.
Yeah,
he's like, people don't even know I was a hockey player. They just think I'm the guy on the show.
Oh yeah. Well, I'd be okay with that too. The guy did all right for himself.
Not bad, eh?
Jeez.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Making the cut. So after my overage year in Rouen, I came back and wasn't really sure what I was going to do. Was talking to some university teams, and was talking to Grand Rapids and Providence in the American League, and possibly, you know, getting a tryout. So wasn't really sure. So actually, I went to do a visit at St. Thomas in Fredericton, and Kyle McAllister and Brad Woods and Derek Campbell were the guys that picked me up and showed me around and took me out, and went over to Mike Eagle's place for dinner and met the family and chatted and started talking, you know, specifics. And they were like, oh, we're in Halifax next week. And I was like, why? And they're like, we're looking for a place to stay. And I was like, well, you guys can stay at my parents' place, whatever, right? We got tons of room. I was like, what are you guys doing? They're like, oh, we're trying out for this TV show. I was like, what? So they were telling me about it, and I was like, I had no clue. So I went to a payphone, called my parents back in Bedford, and I was like, Dad, get on the internet and find out about this thing or whatever. So he got on and looked it up, and sure shit, there was tryouts for they wanted the best unsigned free agents in the country to come together. So we did a camp in Halifax.
Yeah.
And basically they evaluated every player, and you got a scoring system, and then the top whatever players made it to the next round.
What kind of drills did they have you doing?
Oh man, the first drill was literally so I think it was Father's Day weekend.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So it's like right now almost, or next weekend. Yeah.
So Father's Day weekend, and all these kids had signed their dad up, because it was basically like become an NHL player.
Sign their dad.
So anybody could sign up for this thing, right? So like kids are 5, 10, whatever. They're signing their dad up to come try out, right? So like we, and we're signing up, and it's not like there's a list post. It's just, you fill out the sheet, and then they email you or call you with, hey, you've been accepted, you paid your fee, whatever. Here's where you got to show up, right? And then they send you the medical and all that stuff. So the first drill, literally, we just skated, and then they blew the whistle to pick it up, and then stopped to make sure that nobody would drop dead of a heart attack, or that everyone was physically able to skate laps, right? And then bit by bit. So it was so the first session was 2 hours, and bit by bit, like probably 80 people on the ice, and then 80, 60, 30, 25, and then it was like the only guys that were lasted were all the guys that either played junior university or guys. I don't know. I think Scotty Allison may have actually came out, so he had been done playing for a while, but was doing the real estate thing, and I think might have been still doing senior or something around. So like he was out. The guys like that, so I mean, there was a lot of people, and Halifax was the only place that was hosting Atlantic Canada. So like guys from Newfoundland were flying in, PEI, New Brunswick. So Kyle and Woodsy came down, and if I didn't go on that recruiting trip to St. Thomas, I never would have went on the show. So I ended up being the second highest rated player out of the Halifax camp
going.
And Canada Day, I think Nickelback was playing on Citadel Hill.
Yeah.
And it was Bell making the cut. So Bell was a major sponsor, and part of the gig was cameras would follow the guys around as we got a call on July 1st from Scotty Bowman or Mike Keenan, who were the two coaches, right, for this show.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, you made the cut. You're coming to BC to film the show, right? So where the fuck do you think I am on Canada Day at noon hour? Absolutely bombed.
And the camera's following you.
No, they're bombed on Citadel Hill. The cameras they're going to my parents, calling the house, calling this, like,
What do they expect?
Well, that's what I said. Well, it was like noon hour on like for a Saturday, I
Canada
think.
Day,
Well, that's what I said. I was like, that's your problem. But like, because Canada Day hockey, like, this would be a great idea.
Yeah.
Maybe a great idea in everywhere but the Maritimes for Canada Day, right? Like it's just like an Olympic event out here.
That's funny.
Oh yeah, so I'm just shit fan. They're leaving messages, and then there's a message from Scotty Bowman to call this guy at the show, and then there's a message from Mike Keane like, please call us by dinner time. And so I get home like 3 days later, I show up to my house.
3 days later.
Oh, buddy, I would just disappear for a couple of days, right? Like, it was bad. I feel bad. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. But yeah, so we, and I got home, and there was multiple messages. So I called the producer of the show back from the Met, and they're like, yeah, they couriered the contract out, like confidentiality agreement, legal stuff. Because we were filming the show in August, and it wasn't going to air until I think October to March or whatever it was, right? I think it was a weekly show starting in like the late fall or early winter, October, November, and would go till like March break, right? Yeah. So we weren't allowed to tell anybody. We couldn't say anything, right? So they fly us out to Silver Star Resort in Vernon, BC in Kelowna.
Wow.
And I'm like, they didn't spare 1 cent.
First class all the way.
It was amazing, man. Like
CBC put it on?
Yeah, CBC and Bell, right? Yeah. And Molson was a huge sponsor, and
money's coming in.
We're at that 5-star, like Silver Star Resort is like
the whole country was watching that show.
It was massive.
It's a big show.
So we were there, we had to wear our credentials and security stuff to get around, and because the resort was open to regular people, right? Because it's a ski resort in the winter. In the summer, they turn the ski hills into like BMX trails, and you can do the walking thing or whatever. So
it's beautiful,
massive. Oh yeah, and it overlooks the Okanagan Valley, and like and then, so I mean, they and again, there was 60 players. There were 60 of the best free agent, unsigned hockey players in the country.
So you must have knew some other people.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
I knew a handful of guys. Plus, I've made friends on that show that I still talk to today. And it was a great experience. And because of that show, I ended up doing a movie, the Canada-Russia series. When they redid the 72 series, they shot it in Fredericton.
No way, you were in that?
So we did. They got the Stu and UMB hockey teams to do a lot of the on ice stuff, and then there was a game, Canada versus Sweden. So myself and Jeff Bateman, of course, blonde guys, pale skin. It's like, oh yeah, these guys look like Swedes, right? Yeah. So, but there was an altercation where in one of the games, Cashman gets speared and splits her high stick and splits his tongue open, right? And then there's like a big, almost like a brawl under the tunnel, and they're trying to get to the rooms. Yeah. And so I actually have to speak in it. So they're like, oh, this guy's an actor. Throw me a trailer.
Dude, you must have got paid for that. If you have any line in a movie, you're making big bucks.
I ended up having to join like ACTRA, the Actors Union or whatever.
Do you have an IMDb?
No, I'm not that. It's not like, I don't think local CBC television shows back in the early 2000s were making IMDb. No, I wish.
I'd complain if I were you. You'd get on there
because you needed 3 like credits to your name to be part of the union. Oh. And then so I ended up with 3 because of making the cut. The 72 series,
and then
the
Housewives,
Hockey Wives, and then we did some of the hockey shooting for the Miracle movie too. Todd Harkins and some of the guys from
like the Miracle
making the cut, were the Russian players and so they did a lot of that stuff. So again, like the game, like anything you do, like if you're a baseball player, like take advantage of it, right? And use it to open as many doors as you and do as much as you can, whether it's to get a degree, whatever it is. If you're good at it, that's your commodity. That's your brand. Make as much money off that or use it to your advantage.
What do you think I'm doing with this?
Well, exactly, right? Because it ends. It comes to an end. Well, for me, if you're an athlete, it will end, right? And again, I'm not Sidney Crosby. I'm not, Nathan McKinnon. I'm not famous. I'm not an NHL guy who's got millions of dollars in the bank, right?
Yeah.
But I tried to be and I wanted to be, right? So I don't view myself as a failure. I'm glad. Like, I respected the game of hockey more than anybody. And it's funny on my Twitter, it's like you respect the game and the game will respect you back. Right? You love the game will love you back. You love your dog, you know what I mean? Like, you give it, you get it back.
You put out what in the world, you get it right back.
Exactly, right? Like, and I know people like karma, they laugh at it or whatever, but
it's true.
I'm a strong believer in it. Like,
absolutely.
There's a lot of good that comes to people that do good. And there's a lot of bad that comes to people that just burn people and don't care, right? So, like you said it perfectly. You give what you get. So, so the hockey, the TV thing, it was quite the ride, and Bell making the cut was crazy. Like, that was legit an NHL training camp in 2-3 weeks.
There was guys, I remember there was guys throwing up. Oh, like on the show.
Yeah. Like, it was like the first day we had, like, because again, guys are being flown in from all over the country. So the first day was just medicals, kind of get, adjusted, meet everybody.
Were you in shape?
No.
I was gonna say, it was in the summertime.
After my overage year junior, thinking university, like at this point it's August. So I'm like, I've already decided I'm going to school, right? Yeah. So we had worked out a deal at St. Thomas. So I was like, man, we don't start, like, hockey doesn't start till October. Little did I know that Eagles was like a fitness Nazi, right? So he's just like, but... So
I drinking light beer all summer.
Yeah, I may have gotten tennis elbow and failed my physical from drinking so much. We had a lot of fun. Like, and then fitness testing like the next day, and then shuttled down to the rink to do more, and like tons of like green screen video stuff, right? Because they wanted all that stuff for they need the personality, and they need to learn about guys. So like we were, being interviewed by, psychiatrists and psychologists and
to sell the show.
Yeah. And like Saul Miller was there and all this stuff. So we can start to understand, like, get inside our heads and help us, or, when the Maple Leafs are drafting Dominic Noel at the end of the show or whatever, it's like they actually know a bit about the guy like they would an actual kid that they've done their research on and would draft in the NHL draft, right? Do the interviews, talk to the agent, talk to the, all that stuff, talk to the kid, watch the kid, meet him, half a dozen times, right? So that's what they were trying to get all this information for when the show aired. We had it, and when they interviewed people, or if there was an incident or some sort of drama, they would be like, this. And,
this is because of this happened. Because
exactly.
He thinks like this.
Because we were all aware that we were followed 24/7 by cameras. We had cameras in our rooms everywhere, right?
Did that suck, or did you care?
I didn't care.
Okay.
Let's be honest, I loved it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, there's some people that fucking hate it, and there's some guys that just love the camera.
Yeah, so like there was, and Molson had rented one of the lounges in the resort for us, and just footed the bill. It was open tab. Like they had pool tables, food. It was like a pub, right? So we had free run in the place. Never paid. We just had to sign our name, what room we're in, and they picked it up. So they were starting to get a little concerned because we were never hanging out in there.
Where were you hanging out then?
We were leaving the resort because we didn't want cameras seeing what we were doing.
So there was parts where you didn't like it then?
Well, that part, yeah. So like
when you're sober, you don't
so
mind.
When we had the credentials and stuff on, I was Mike Couch from Bell Making the Cup. But like when we we would take our stuff off, run to the main gates, call a couple cabs.
Yeah.
Like after kind of everybody, like it got dark or whatever, or we're going to go for dinner.
Yeah.
Like, and then we'd leave the resort.
Yeah.
And we just give fake names, and we were just on vacation or whatever, right? We weren't hockey players, we weren't doing a show or anything like that, and we'd leave.
We're just guys.
So they were like, "What's going on?" or whatever, like, and they wanted more drama. So that's when things.
Oh, because they wanted to film in the lounge. I see what you're saying.
They want to see, guys get crushed, or like if I don't like you, like let's let's swing pool cues at each other. Let's take it outside and scrap. Like that's what they were wanting.
Did the producers ever ask you to create fake drama?
Oh yeah,
they asked you?
Because there was rules, like we weren't allowed to they didn't want fighting or any of that stuff, but we're all junior, and this is the early 2000s, so it's like you got to show that you can do this stuff, right? I mean, I just came 4 years out of the queue with an average of 160, 180 penalty minutes, but I wasn't getting those by taping sticks.
But it's funny because hockey guys off the ice, they're mostly good guys. There's no drama off the ice.
Yeah, nobody wants it. It's I just want to kick back, relax, or I'll take it all in and observe other people's.
Yeah, and the producers are probably just like, they're gonna hate each other. It's like, fuck it.
No, it was
good fight today, bud.
Oh, it was nuts. And I mean, because there was two teams, and as they cut guys, they were shipped off to the other side and weren't allowed to be with the rest of us, the main group. And then you're like, oh, you've got to do morning skate, then you got to play a game, then we're gonna make you guys practice in the afternoon because we got to get that for tomorrow. So it's like I was sleeping under tables at the rink, just trying to catch a quick nap, between morning skate, then a game, and then practice. It was like, this isn't crazy. It was I was exhausted. I think I lost probably 10, 15 pounds by the time I got back.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was super condensed, a lot of fun, but also again, I wasn't really, I was in decent shape.
Yeah.
I was coming, and I've always been, I have a decent body type where my weight doesn't fluctuate. So it's
high
not
metabolism.
So it's not like when I shut it down, I always would throw my gear away for a month.
Yeah.
As soon as the season was over and do nothing. I would just party and whatever. And then I'd grab, and then, back, and then call Japes and we're going to start.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, the TV thing is it's taken me places. I've met a lot of people. Kind of seems to be the theme of this chat today about everybody that I know or claim to know.
Well, talk about it. So Arm Dogs are Colby Armstrong. He's having a good time here.
So I played in Hockey Helps Homeless with Todd Warner, fundraiser that was here in Halifax over the summer.
Jules was there too, right?
Yeah, and Jules George. Eddie and George was here, and Ramsey Big came back for it, and Rick Jackman, and I think Bernie Nichols. So it's in Hockey Helps the Homeless is a nonprofit. It's a legit organization, and they do them all throughout the country, and it just brings awareness and money to homeless veterans in whatever city you're at. And Halifax actually has a lot of them, which is one of the reasons why we participated. Yeah, it was crazy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, a lot of people do, right? Because it's in our city, like you don't really see, like we don't have like a section of homeless or like an area under a bridge where you're like, yeah, you just don't go to that part of the city.
They're
like
kind of
you
spread
wouldn't,
out.
like you would in Chicago or LA or something, right? Or New York, where it's like, you know, there's areas where you just
They
avoid.
push them all to one.
Yeah, and they all migrate to that area or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Here we don't have it.
They're everywhere.
It's
not everywhere.
they're not everywhere. Well, they
you know.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, not numbers everywhere, but spread out geographically. Like you see the odd person panhandling at
Bears Lake here.
you know, the Five Corners and Quinpool and then Windsor Street Exchange, places like that. But that I think is most people's perception of homeless. Right? They don't think about people that went to fight in the war, been in the military, and now come back and again didn't talk or solve issues or be given a support system or whatever, right? And things just spiral out of control. And that's one thing that I've really tried to be cognizant of is not labeling or judging people that when you see them, right? Because I used to be like that. But, oh, look at that loser. Look at that guy. What he fucked that up, or what he did to deserve that, right?
Yeah.
And fast forward 20 years later and look at me, right? Like, so going back, don't judge, right? Just, help or
shut up.
Just don't make it worse. Don't feel bad, or don't put the guilt on it, or don't try to make yourself feel better or make your situation better by chopping somebody else down. So the Hockey Helps the Homeless is great. I recommend anybody who's a hockey fan or just wants to help people out to check it out. They have a website or whatever. It's going to come back to Dartmouth next summer.
Is it?
Yeah, it'll be a yearly thing.
Like this summer coming up, you mean? Or they're not doing it this
maybe
summer?
It's the fall. Summer or fall. I can't remember. I have to check.
Let me know. We'll come film and do some stuff. That'd be
so
cool.
Anyway, I met Toddy there, and the guys that we played with were great, and we kind of hit it off, and shooting the shit. So he's like, I'm back for the Memorial Cup. Let's get together. So, and then when I was working at the prep school, we used to play in Shadyside Academy and then Midwest Prep. So that's in Pittsburgh. So I would bust down with the boys. We'd play for the weekend, and then I would fly Toronto, Montreal, do some recruiting, and then get back to school. Because instead of taking the bus directly back, I would and Colby was always on that flight from Pittsburgh to Toronto on, I don't even know what it was, that flew into Toronto Island, Billy Bishop there.
Yeah.
So he was always on that flight, and he's buddies with him and Steve Dixon played together in Wilkes-Barre. So I knew him, through Dix, and buddies with, like I said, Patrick O'Sullivan, Dan Carcillo, and they ran with those guys in the NHL. So, he messaged me, I knew him a little bit, and sent me a message. And so we were chatting, and they were a little upset with the weather, because they kind of been confined to the hotel, which I totally agree. It's like,
Did they bring their clubs?
No, they didn't. I was hoping, because today would have been the day, right?
Yeah.
But, they've been treated, he said that they've got nothing but magic for this city, right? They love it. And they said, they go to the ale house for a couple after the show's done or whatever. Yeah. And people he's like, they don't care. Like, they don't come up to me and want to take my picture. They don't, it's like, here, have a beer. Can I buy you a beer and all this stuff?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, the people out here, again, it just, when you hear stuff like that, it restores your faith in humanity. Like, there are good people still around, right? Like, as much as we say the world is, a shitty place or it's dangerous or whatever, there are good people.
That's why I think Sid grew up in the best city.
Oh,
best hockey player in the world. Imagine if he lived in Toronto.
Oh, he'd be, nuts.
You know what I mean?
I mean, it's, So, I mean, here again, we allow people to be who they are and do their own thing. And I mean, everybody once in a while wants a picture or an autograph or something that's never seen the guy. But for the most part, like, if I'm out or you're out, the last thing you want to do is harass somebody you don't know. Like, that's going to ruin your night too. It's like, I'm going to look like a, idiot, whatever. Yeah. So it's like, I'll just buy the guy a beer, say hi. If he wants to talk to me, great. If not, who am I to impose or try to force a friendship on somebody, right?
Yeah.
Or try to pretend to be somebody because people. It's like, basically, hey, I'm buddies with it, just to let them know that you're not a super fan, or, you're a decent guy. You're not looking to just be a groupie or, an
There's nothing to be said.
Yeah. Right. So It is what it is. It's they're good. They love the city. Army's had some stories to share.
I was gonna say
they really enjoyed the King of Donair there. That Tara Sloan thing that she's been doing, the tour of Halifax with the boys. So it's been good. They had a great time at Keith's Brewery. We're going to probably get together tonight after the banquet there.
Right on.
Maybe
drop the high button on.
Yeah, we'll definitely pump the podcast for sure. Maybe I was thinking maybe you'd even just happen to be walking around, and
we'll see.
We'll invite you over, get the introduction, and have a beer, and
absolutely.
And I'll just mosey on out, and you can. Hey man, you got to come on to the high button. There you go. We'll set
That's
it up
how it
for
works.
you. Good team guy, right? Good room guy.
I've seen him a bunch like this trip, but there's never. He's all like people are in the media world down there just talking to him.
Oh yeah,
he's a big wig down there to the media world. Time. So we're just like, fuck, we don't need to talk.
Or you run into him in the bathroom, and it's like, am I going to corner this guy in the men's bathroom? Probably.
You know who has been getting cornered in the washroom was I ran into a Dubas,
Kyle Dubas, the GM of the Maple Leafs.
So I was in there like three times when he was in there, and the guy's just taking a piss, and there's people talking to him while he's trying to take a piss. I'm like, oh man, I felt so bad for the guy. The guy's just trying to just
go to the bathroom.
Just go to the bathroom. There's
probably one of the most private things you should be able to do in life, and it's like
people are going right. Like if there's an empty stall, you keep your distance. No,
you got to keep them. Yeah, you gotta have the etiquette and go buffer zone.
Anyways, it's been a funny week.
Yeah, that's good.
We're coming up on 2 hours here. I got to ask you before you go. You might not be actually no. There's two things I got to talk to you about. One, I was told to ask you, were you ever in Quake Matthews' backyard playing road hockey or ice hockey with Robbie Foster?
Yes.
Because he said you were in his backyard playing ice hockey.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What was that like? Just a Canadian day playing hockey.
Robbie Foster and I were good friends growing up, and his old man Mike was my coach, like minor hockey and things like that. And Mike's good friends with Jai, and
you know Jai.
Oh yeah,
Jai's a great guy,
phenomenal, right? And then obviously training at with Japes and the boys, we used to do our sprint work and footwork stuff at St. Mary's. So I see Jai out there painting the lines all the time and smiling or whatever. So we go over and. The boys would, on the backyard rink.
He had a great rink.
Oh, phenomenal.
Flat,
right?
that's all you need.
Yeah. And, we just had fun. We'd go over there whenever we could. And we made a thing of it to anytime there was an outdoor rink in anyone's neighborhood, we'd be like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. And then you just, mom and dad be like, make sure you're home by the time the street lights come on.
And sometimes you'd make it, sometimes you wouldn't.
Well, when we were younger, we always made it, right? Because there was the fear of losing something, right? Yeah. Fear was a good motivator back when we grew up. So good
outdoor,
times. Real good. That's funny. That's way back.
Well, he was just the guy who messaged me. He's
junior high.
Junior high?
Maybe, or high school. Junior high. I'm thinking junior high, maybe.
Wow, that's a throwback.
Big time.
And then you don't have to answer, but you played for both teams, Mooseheads and Rouen. So you got to give me something here. Who do you want to win, and who do you think's going to win? I guess.
Well, I said it yesterday. I said whoever won the semifinal, I think, is going to win the tournament. Okay. I think Guelph was like on paper and just their roster and the way that they played in the playoffs. Like I think were the best team.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think they took advantage of certain situations. Again, I'm not their coach, and it's way above my pay grade, so I'm not going to criticize the guy's job. But from what we saw, like I just don't think that they took advantage of things and played up to their, the way they should have in order to win this thing or to be a favorite.
Okay.
Halifax, I don't think wants to play Rouen at all, as much as they say we do, but they've beaten them 5 times in the last 8 days.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've got their number. I think overall Rouen, again, a better team than Halifax. If Halifax's star players are their star players, then I think
Gravel has to play amazing too.
Yeah, I think they'll be all right, but I think there's a huge mental block inside that Moosehead locker room.
Do you?
Yeah, I think they're just, I know they beat them twice in the President's Cup final, but there's just something to be said about a team that you just can't get over the hump or put away. Right?
Maybe they just need to visualize.
Well, I mean, if they're not in the rink right now and listening to this, hopefully they learn something or take something onto the ice with them or into the locker room that can benefit them. And again, if anybody that's listening to this thing ever, is struggling, the best thing I can say is just ask for help. Talk to somebody that you trust within your circle. Talk to your parents, girlfriend, wife, boyfriend, brother, sister, whoever it is. And listen. That's the other thing too, is listen, right? Just as far as when we were talking about like mental health and addiction and all that stuff, like now that it's out there, and like I said, I was a little nervous about maybe talking about it, because once it's out there forever, it's out there. But like I said, it's time. I'm comfortable with it. Nothing to hide.
People are going to come up to you now, because the person we were talking about before, after the episode, he said that people were just messaging him left, right, and center. So after this comes out, there's going to be people that are reaching out to you.
And that's fine. And I mean, I should give a shout out to Scotty Bonnerchuk, Andrew's old man. He's been a huge help to me. Yeah. He's in the program. You know, he's got over 30 years of sobriety in him now. And he's been huge for me. He's been working with other NHL players, and a lot of people don't know about the good work that he does, but he's been a huge mentor for me, best friend, you name it, confidant. Again, it's just a guy that if I'm struggling or he's struggling or whatever, it's, hey, let's go for a coffee, and there's no judgment. There's no whatever, right? There might be some tears, or there might be a, don't be an idiot. You're not that lost.
You're not that out of it. Yeah.
He's been great. And there's been other people in the city that, I'm just not going to mention their names, but they have been great too. It's funny because we live in a world where we're taught to say, hey, if you need anything, give me a call, or I'm always there. But I've learned that it's just what you say because you're supposed to say it. People don't actually mean it. Some do. And when you go through a situation like I went through, or other people have gone through, you start to realize the people that mean it and that actually do care. I mean, I lost friends over it, and I've lost people that I've hurt because I was, a shell of myself, and I wasn't, present, and I burned people and hurt them. So I've got to live with that. But it's like, you start to see who really is your brother, or who really is a teammate, or who really is a family member that, hey, reaches out and say, hey man, you need a place to stay, or you need a job, or you want to talk, you want to go for coffee, you want to go bowling, swimming, golfing, something other than, hey, let's go to a bar, hey, let's go, whatever. So if you're somebody who struggles with mental health or addiction issues, give me a call, give me a message. Pascal Morency's another guy who played in Cape Breton, him and I fought a lot when I was in Halifax and he was in Cape Breton. Yeah. And then he went through same thing.
It's funny how that
identity loss, substance abuse issues, all that stuff, right? And he reached out to me when I was really struggling, and I'd sent him a message like, hey man, I went to rehab, all this stuff, and here's where I'm at, and dealing with some depression and all. And he was, every day he'd message me until I called him back and started talking about and just working through things. And that's a guy that if anybody saw us on paper, like just saw us together on paper, they would think that we hate each other because we fought so many times, right? But we ended up being teammates in Rouen, and I learned about him through Dix and some of the guys that had played with him in Cape Breton, and then I played with him and saw what he was all about and fell in love with the guy. I was like, this guy is a true like compassionate person, right? And now he's like a motivational and a life coach, and he speaks to people and talks about mental health and addiction and all that stuff. And so he was, so big shout out to Mo there. He's been a huge help for me. And then obviously, Dan Carcello, he's been through everything, and he's been a huge advocate for mental health and addiction things. So I've messaged him a bunch too, because again, those guys were my buddies, and there's 3 out of the 4 of us that were in that really tight group that have all been to treatment and had to get things together. And so it's more common than people think. It's still scary and dangerous, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. So hang in there if you're somebody that struggles. And if you're not, turn your ears on and open your eyes and try to help people, or just, hold doors, talk, smile at people. Don't judge them, right? Make you feel welcome. So Yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess.
I
mean, I could sit here all day and talk to you, tell you stories. I mean, we can do this again.
I think there's going to be a round 2 for sure.
I think so. I think we got to get into some hockey stuff and specific.
So you're living here, eh?
Yeah, full time back here. Like I said, doing a lot of on ice stuff with Sean, player development in Bedford minor hockey, and doing my training for financial services advisor and life insurance and all that stuff for Freedom 55. So
okay,
starting to create a new life and a new path for myself, and happy to be doing it back home.
That's
and
awesome.
Yeah, started to, like I said, the glass isn't just full of hockey stuff now, right? It's more life and education and
it's great,
and passing a message on and being a real teacher and mentor instead of pretending or falsely hoping that I survive every day, right? Let's start living and having some fun. But Huskies are going to win the Memorial Cup. And on that note, good luck, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. And Justin, like I said, thanks for having me, man. High Button. Everybody give it a follow, subscribe.
You're just doing my job right now.
Well, I figured I've talked for an hour and 50 minutes. You might as well just keep those feet up. And
it makes my job easier, though.
Hey, man, like I said, you made me feel real welcome and comfortable. So that's hats off to you, right? I've done interviews where it's like I'm gritting my teeth and like this guy is like.
I'm not an interviewer. I always say that. I'm I'm a listener. I'm a conversationalist. I don't
right.
I just like to listen.
For sure, and that's what you're doing. You're trying to bring a different perspective or hear other people's voices about certain things that, again, no one's calling me to hear my story, right? Because you're not famous, but
everyone has a story.
But my story is so common among people in this area.
Yeah.
I mean, Cam Russell and I were chatting last night, and he's like, once the draft's over and things have calmed down, he's like, let's get together and go for lunch and chat, and we'll see what's up. And so I mean, again, there's another guy who looked out for me when I was a teenager.
Did he too? He's the guy who reached out to you too.
Phenomenal. I mean, Cam, he lives over in Cole Harbor and stuff. So Bruce Gillis and I used to go over there and do his landscaping for him in the summer. He'll make fun of me for this, and actually, I'll just say it because. Like Bruce Gillis was like the hardest working guy I've ever met, right? And phenomenal teammate. Yeah. Like we always joke about good room guy and good teammate, right? And it's the polite and the political way. But Gilly was the consummate professional at the junior level, Mr. Teammate, hosted the parties, him and I back and forth because we both lived at home and our parents, so we just switched the parties back and forth. And him and I lived together at Stew, so he's one of the best guys I've ever met. And he I got a lot of stories about Gilly actually, but the landscaping gig, like he would show up like legit, like steel toe work boots, got the jeans on with the holes, the gloves on, like ready to work. And I'd show up like Oakley sunglasses, t-shirt, bar uni on. You can't be like, you gotta work, man.
And
okay,
would say that?
Oh yeah,
you gotta work.
Gilly's got like the wheelbarrow and the shovels going, and I'm like
practicing
it's
wrist
30
shot.
degrees outside. Like, let's get the beers going and get a tan here, right? Like Gilly's digging in the dirt and stuff, and then Cam, it was awesome. Like I said, they would just do the extra for us. And again, it was like Sean moved a couple times. He called me up, me like, here's a couple $100, move my fridge and couch, and it's like. When you're only making $35 a week playing junior, right? It's like, that's big money, right? And plus it's your coach. Yeah. You're forming a relationship with your coach outside of hockey, of him either trying to motivate you or teach you, and sometimes have to discipline you. It's like, here we go, right?
It's starting now.
Yeah. Now off the ice, we have a relationship. We're friends.
Yeah. Cam's the number one coach who's cut me the most, because I've always got called up to the Moose, and then he'd be like, all right, you're going down, you're going up, you're going down. And every time he'd go, Belanger, it's a great game, but a shitty business, buddy. Oh, yeah. Just keep getting up, keep trying. Anyway, shout out to Cam. He's a great guy. Yeah, he's phenomenal. Up in the press box too. I always try to talk to him, but these guys are, him and Bobby, they're just so busy, man.
It's a tough week for those guys. I mean, it's, again, Halifax, phenomenal city. Glad they got to host everything, but it could be tiresome for sure.
All right. Well, Mike, I appreciate you coming on, man. We got to get you back on here
Absolutely.
again. All right. Everyone listening, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, Instagram, iTunes, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, all that good stuff. You know what to do. I love each and every one of you, and we're out. Peace, guys.